Fourth down on 4.
Welcome in to Fourth Down on 4, and the question screamed from the rooftops of so many Saints fans tonight: where was that all season? An absolute team win. That's how Drew Brees described it, but then again, there have been several absolute gems posted against the hapless Lions this season. But this was a game too many times that had gone the other way for this franchise, and today, from the opening kickoff, there was no doubt who would win. Even after kissing their playoff opportunities goodbye, the Saints still with a chance to make Detroit Rock City Detroit Rock Bottom.
Now it's the race for the end zone. They finally round him up.
The motivation's there. Obviously, we're not playing anything in the postseason at this point, but guys want to play well. We want to finish above 500, and to win the majority of our games in the second half of the season. That will feel good in carrying over to next year.
And next year is right now for some players, like Higgins and LSU product Skylar Green, who learned earlier this week he would return kicks for the Saints.
I had the kicker to beat, and I saw him kind of stumbling, and as he started stumbling, I just was like, jump over. And then the guy hopped on my back. Just to be a part of this football team is a blessing. And playing for the home team and getting the opportunity today, and I just tried to make the best of it.
5 plays later, Robert Meacham scored the first of what would be 6 touchdowns for the black and gold. The quick strike went as planned, according to Sean Payton.
We talked about that, in the games that they've played real well this year. They've gone ahead of teams, and last week, they got off to a good start. So we talked a lot about starting well.
New Orleans scored early and often, throwing and running to a 28-7 halftime lead.
We thought we could run the ball well on this team, and that's what we was really looking at for the backs. We thought about this game could be our opportunity to get about 200 yards, maybe more.
Or less. The Saints tallied 181 yards on the ground, included in that total 61 yards by Deuce McAllister, putting him over 6,000 for his career. Back up to par was Marcus Colston, 2 scores, doubling his touchdown total for the season.
I feel like I was able to get involved early, and it's just, I guess this game's been a long time coming.
But it was all too little, too late in the big picture, although the Saints can finish this year winners of 5 of their final 7 games with a win next week against Carolina.
I know how good we can be. I know how many tough losses we've had, and the whole coulda, woulda, shoulda thing. I've said this before, that's a loser's lament.
Drew Brees, a fantastic day, and this is how you know you're having a ridiculous season when a stat line like Brees's today includes the phrase he only threw for 351 yards. His 2 scores sets the franchise record for touchdown passes in a season with 30, breaking his own record of 28. And now Brees will need 402 yards next week to break Dan Marino's single-season passing yardage record. Joining us now in studio to talk a little bit more about the Saints, Bobby Hebert, WWL AM and FM. And first question is, I know the record's out there, and I know it's a big deal, but should Drew have been in that late in the game?
Well, you look at Drew Brees is the future of the offense. We have the #1 ranked offense since he's been here, 1, and last year 4, now back to #1. But, he wants to be in there. He's such a competitor, and really they wasn't getting pressure on him. A freakish accident could happen as far as, an injury. But, Drew was on a roll. If you look at it, just a dominant performance by, him. And then you look at Marcus Colston, actually had, 9 catches, 99 yards. And actually had
like the old Marcus, yeah.
Especially as the game progressed, because he had a couple of drops at the beginning. You look at 1 long ball and then on the fade route. But Marcus Colston definitely getting back into the fold where he has the trust factor between him and Drew.
401, 402 yards for the record now for Drew Brees against the Panthers. If he gets it, they're probably not winning this game. But do you think he gets it? 400 yards against the Panthers is tough.
That'd be tough. Now, if it'd be around 250, I would say yes, that's a strong possibility. But realistically, when you're throwing for 400 yards, even 350 or plus, you're having to throw the ball 45 to 50 times a game. So that's not a good game plan. No, you look at the balance, 40 passes, 30 rushes in this particular game. No, it was a great game plan. So realistically, I'd have to say I don't think Drew's going to break the record. But, he's all about the team. And obviously, look at a number of things that happened today. Deuce McAllister going over 6,000 yards. Pierre Thomas tying Dalton Hilliard 6 consecutive games with a touchdown. He could possibly break that record next year against next weekend against Carolina. So I think you have to look at those goals with Drew Brees just doing an outstanding job guiding the offense against the Lions.
You've been on both sides of a blowout. You've won one, you've probably lost a few. What's that like, being on both sides of it? Is it tough to play the full 4 quarters either way?
Well, when you try and preach to yourself, if you're going to last a long time in this league, no matter what your record, you have to be professional about your job. And, the big eye in the sky don't lie. So you're constantly being evaluated. So I think as a player, you just got to go out there and say, hey, we're out the playoffs. A lot of Saints fans might take the approach, and I got to give Coach Payton a lot of credit along with the players, that, yeah, you could feel sorry for yourself. We lost to the Bears. We're not in the playoff picture. But, no, you can end on a positive note, and so you have to take that approach. Now, on the Lions side, if you look at Smith running the football, it's only his second game. He's had over 100 yards rushing. He was running as hard as ever. And you look at the Saints, they have not given up an individual rusher. That's only the second rusher this year. In 1991, they've given up one rusher for over 100 yards. Yeah. So the Saints defense, coming up, big as far as stopping the individual runner. But Kevin Smith, you got to give him credit because he ran hard coming into the game. He was averaging 4.2 yards a carry, ended up getting 4.6 yards against the Saints defense.
Now, Detroit, and that's what a lot of the guys said after the game, Detroit played hard the entire time, which is a testament to the coaching staff. Bobby Hebert will join us when we come back from the break. We look at some of the negatives in this game. Another injury for Jeremy Shockey and Mike Bell. Is he the replacement the Saints are looking for at the running back position? Stay with us. You're watching 4th Down. Don't move. Still ahead, Jim Henderson tells us if the Saints felt any sympathy for the winless Lions. And after a few early bumps in the road, the Hornets are... From the auto industry to the Detroit Lions, it's tough sledding in Detroit these days, but today the Saints were in no mood to hand out a handout to the Lions. Jim Henderson with more.
Going to Colston, touchdown Saints.
It was a laugher from beginning to end. Glenn Pakulak, a Michigan native, got the first game ball of his career for never punting. The Saints were 11 of 11 in 3rd down conversions before taking a knee on the final series.
We converted every 3rd down, with the exception of the one at the end of the game, taking 3 knees in a row. It's killing our average.
And the Saints had their way in every way against the first 0-15 football team in NFL history. Football has been described as war, and there's no room for sentiment in war. But maybe there was today against a virtually weaponless and defenseless opponent. Under the circumstances, given the travails of Detroit, both on and off the field, could you possibly feel sorry for your opponent?
I told Calvin Johnson after the game, this will pass quicker than you think, and it usually does. And in our league, the good news is after misfortune or tough years or tough seasons, the way it's set up is you can find yourself being real competitive sooner rather than later.
As a competitor, you can't come in feeling sorry for your opponent. Otherwise, they're gonna get you. So definitely walk off the field, talking to some of the players that I knew. Yeah, I definitely feel sorry for them.
And so there is something to play for next week. Personal rewards for Brees, winning records for the Saints. But today also provided some relief. The 2008 New Orleans Saints will not go down in history as the first and quite possibly only team the Detroit Lions beat all season long.
Just felt like they were really playing for a lot these last 2 weeks, just doing whatever it took to win a game, and they had nothing to lose. They could play loose and take chances and all those things. So, that becomes a dangerous opponent.
In Detroit, Jim Henderson, 4th Down on 4.
Bobby Hebert, WWL AM and FM, joining us again. And let's look at some of the things that happened that really didn't go the Saints' way. And you look at Jeremy Shockey. Started off catching some footballs, never really could break the big one, but then another injury for this guy. And this is just coming just all too familiar, seeing him kind of limp off the field.
Especially when you're counting on Jeremy Shockey to be the go-to tight end. Talking about bang for your buck, Billy Miller has definitely, above and beyond what we expected out of him. And with Jeremy Shockey, unlike, I guess, his first year was the only time he really stayed healthy, he's having to deal with injuries. In the first half, he was leading all receivers with 5 receptions, and just having these nagging injuries. And, you know, you look at Drew Brees, you can now tie with Tom Brady's record as far as different number of receivers to catch a touchdown pass.
He needs Shockey to come back.
He needs Shockey or like a Carney or Buck Ortega to come with that big catch. So maybe one of those guys might be available in the last week of the season against Carolina.
What stat carries more weight to you? Jeff Charleston's 3 sacks on the year, which, by the way, is tied with Will Smith and Charles Grant, or Jason David's 5 picks, which is tied for 3rd best in the entire league? Which one do you think is a more legitimate stat?
Well, I'd have to say Jason David, because you look at all the injuries we've had at cornerback, he's really stepped up. Now, I think Jason David has solidified his spot as a big part of the Saints secondary. You always have to have depth at every position, not necessarily as a starter, but he's proven that he's a playmaker. When he gets his hands on the ball, he can make plays. And so I think Jason David will be part of the 09 team. Now, Jeff Charleston, you always love, you know,
the chagrin of some Saints fans. I mean, there's a lot of people that will turn their season tickets in if that happens.
But no, but look at Jason David. Which player in Saints history has handled more adversity?
Right.
I mean, to me, that takes a lot of courage and strength within to be able to bounce back like Jason David has. So I give a lot of credit to him. He did not feel sorry for himself. He really stepped to the forefront, given the opportunity, has made plays. Now, I think he'll be in the mix. Now, you look at Jeff Charleston, it's all a matter of taking advantage of an opportunity. We always love the overachievers. You know, when you have that opportunity, can you make a play? Jeff Charleston, you look what he did in the Chiefs games, 2 sacks. Now he's you know, high motor, getting after the quarterback. Bobby McCrae comes off the edge, great pressure, but he keeps coming. He ends up coming up with a sack. So yeah, the disappointment has been the Will Smith and the Charles Grant. You getting paid the big bucks. We need that kind of production where you're getting double-digit sacks and not be tied with the likes of Jeff Charleston.
Who did you like more real quick, and who do you think maybe has an opportunity to be on the 09 roster more? Mike Bell, Skylar Green, real quick.
I'd have to say Mike Bell, simply because the depth at the running back position, not knowing the status of Deuce. I mean, you've seen that one run, Mike Bell, when he ran over his Josh Bullock's identical twin, Daniel Bullock's. I mean, that's one of those plays you see on the highlights where, you know, it said he got jacked up. I mean, that was a snot bubble, definitely, you know, knocked in his nose. So I think Mike Bell will be part of the mix. And if I had to guess, I would think there, because Skylar Green, I'm not saying they come a dime a dozen, but Skylar, you can't put him on the practice squad anymore. And it looks like that maybe he might not be part of the mix next year.
Still, great story. Like to root for him, and I love the frohawk that he has.
Oh, yeah, Skylar Green from, you know, from the West Bank, or we should say the best bank.
Maybe next week we see Bobby Hebert in a frohawk. Who knows? Stay with us. You're watching Fourth Down.